and then the real deal starts. Ellis Park, 22nd of August, and then it's all systems go.
Exactly.
Someone stopped me and said, "What did you think of Durban?" And I said it was a Nanu event. And they said, "Really? What?"
No, Nanu.
Food Lovers Market, home of the lacquer Brian. You know what I did when I got in yesterday afternoon, Zels? I put on the wood and I made a braai and just killed myself in a little pike here. We had this fabulous 5:30 till 7 o'clock braai because Durban once was not my favorite place. Maybe now will become my favorite place.
Sure.
Because I never came back.
Shots fired.
Feeling sick, having the runs. But I had to go buy a big, thick jacket because I went there expecting 25 degrees, surf weather. Mike Grume picked me up at the airport. Gav Rich was there. Brendan L. The old gang was back together again on the beat. And boys, that first night, I was freezing. The second night, I went to the gym and said, I've got to get a jacket. Went in and bought a jacket. The woman who served me said, I had to go buy myself a jacket at work yesterday as well. Durban's never been that cold. 12 degrees on both days. It bucketed with rain for most of it. I think there was a period of 40 minutes in the All Blacks demolition of the Sharks that it stopped raining. And it was just horrendous, the weather. But other than that, great occasion, festive. Only 14,000 at the game. Very much down to the weather as well. I think otherwise they would have got 24, 25,000. But a memorable time, and we've now pretty much seen the core of that All Black squad in action in Cape Town and in Durban. And they look as good as we thought they would, and they look as vulnerable as we thought they would. Your impressions from afar?
Mate, my impressions were it was fabulous to see you and the boys reunited again. I think it's been long overdue. Great to see the gang back together again. And in Derbs, I'm glad you finally had a good experience of Derbs. I grew up in Derbs, loved Derbs. Didn't enjoy the winters, generally just overcast and like a white sheet over you. So I concur with your winter vibes about Derbs, but a great, great town. For the All Blacks and the Sharks, mate, I think that they should be thanking their lucky stars that it was raining. I think if it hadn't been raining, those All Blacks would have sliced and diced them to 3 digits. Didn't go their way on the night. We're lucky not to score 0, I suppose. And I thought the interesting part that came out of it was how the All Blacks played against the Sharks, the way they chose to play, and then the Sharks scrum, mate. I think the Sharks scrum really stood up against the All Blacks, won a few penalties against them, and showed again just that sort of soft underbelly to the All Blacks pack, and what the implications of that may be going into this Test series. I don't really know how the All Blacks are going to save themselves from what's coming there at the box.
Well, if you look, there was 7-0 in 25 minutes, 7-0, and they changed ends to 14-0. And the Sharks in the opening 10, 15 were pushing. They had the line-out drive from 5 meters. They had the opportunity to kick 3 points straight in front. They were close on the ground, where they run out from the tunnel on that side of the field to score. And I kept on thinking, this is primarily the test team of the All Blacks, and they were very slow to get started against, which was a mix and match of youth and one grizzly veteran, Imar Non, who came in for the last 20 minutes and just showed his class at 44 years old to just have presence on the field. Made one thumping little short burst run, introduced Ruben Love to South Africa via Wellington, New Zealand. As he leads with that elbow as he goes, he's a hard man to tackle, Ma Nanu. And I kept on thinking, if you start against the Springboks like this, it's going to be 21 the other way, 21 points down. And they started slowly. They started on fire in Cape Town for 5 minutes and then kind of settled, and the Stormers got into the game. The Sharks just, unfortunately, without their 6 or 7 Springboks, without some of their top players that are playing in the Currie Cup, they didn't have the cattle to make that first 20, 25 minutes count. And then after that, and it felt to me like if you watch that cold front coming in Cape Town and you say to someone it's going to rain, they say, but it looks far away. But when it comes, that rain comes. And I just thought the 50 points will come. It's just going to come a bit later in the game than we thought it should come. And what then surprised me was it took 75 minutes for them to go past 54. But I also agree, on a dry night, the skill set of their All Blacks, it would have been a lot messier. But I don't think you can read anything into the first test in terms of how good or bad are these All Blacks based on that?
Yeah, so no, what I would say though is that the fact that the Shark scrum was able to keep pace with that All Black scrum. And in the second half, the youngsters come off the bench, the junior box, and immediately win a scrum penalty against the All Blacks. Now, these kids are high ceiling, great prospects, and are probably going to go very far in rugby. But it's right at the beginning of their careers, and they're playing an All Blacks team full of guys that are trying to cement a spot in that test side. That was an impressive feat to be able to do that. And I think you saw something similar in Cape Town when the other All Blacks team played the Stormers. They also struggled at scrum time. I think that is an area that they're running out of time to find a solution. They find the handbrake on that thing because if they leak scrum penalties against the Springboks, they're going to spend a lot of time in their own half defending. The game's going to be on the wrong side of halfway for them, and they're going to be making all those 60 carries in that part of the field. But what did come out of that game that you can kind of forecast into the test series is the All Blacks are willing to kick. Against the Stormers, basically didn't put boot to ball in the teens. Against the Sharks, they were 30 plus. The Stormers stacked the line and dared them to kick, and they didn't take it. They ran. The Sharks, in those conditions, the All Blacks spotted the kick space and they took it. And Geordie Barrett specifically was doing great things there to sort of flip the field and move the game downfield in that way. So I think that the score margin kind of reflects those tactics. It's like slow poison. It eventually took its toll as the game wore on. But that Shark scrum definitely did sort of stem the bleeding for a while.
And there was the odd poach line-out. Again, the odd line-out drive that they didn't defend as ruthlessly as you would have expected.
Yep.
Listening to the feedback from people at the ground and then people who contacted me, post the Stormers game, there was, the All Blacks weren't that great. And I didn't think they were a hell of a lot better in this one, in the context of what we expect or we hope to see from them in the test matches.
Yeah.
But I got so many people saying, wow, that was a good All Black performance. And I thought it was an okay All Black performance. Again, going back to those primary fundamentals we speak about, I expected them to be a lot more dominant in the scrum. This is pretty much as close to their test pack as we're going to see.
Yeah.
And I expected the execution to be a lot more precise. I know the weather conditions were awful at times, but I'm talking about the basic things, or not the elaborate things that they do. And I just felt there was more to read into kind of how the backup depth will go from the Stormers game than the frontline 15 will go in that first test match, because it's not even so much that first test match. This series is played over 4 tests.
Totally.
4 successive weekends, and the last one in another country. It's certainly not going to be the same 23 that front each other at Ellis Park in Johannesburg that we're going to see in Baltimore. And if it is, wow, I think they're going to be off for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And we keep on saying it, the intensity that the Boks will play with. And we saw that start that they did against England in the Nations Championship. England looked bewildered in that opening 12 minutes. Boks went in for 2 tries.
Yeah.
Could have had a third one. I don't know if it's the best preparation for the All Blacks to have had a game like this against the Sharks, a very young and inexperienced Shark side. Those Sharks players will be a lot better off in their careers for having been shut out by the All Black test team.
Absolutely.
You would think that Dave Rennie would have wanted to test his pack against that Stormers pack.
Maybe he did, mate.
That's going to be more closer. You're saying that could be the test pack.
Maybe.
One never knows. You could come with a whole different thing.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, let's look at the alternative. Let's pretend there was no RGR series and they were going to play rugby championship. He's straight in Pumas, Wallabies, Springboks. That's what Rennie's doing in his first couple of games. So as much as these provincial teams are a bit of a soft target for them, it does give him an opportunity to try combinations, play second and third stringers without all the hullabaloo that goes with a test match. And I think that there is definitely value. If you Rennie, this is pretty much exactly what you want. You want to get as many games as possible. You can play 3 games a week. Fantastic, because you're getting answers every time they go out. Having said that, like I keep saying, the runway is just too short to be where Rennie wants them. I'm not saying that the All Blacks are no-hopers. I'm just saying where Rennie wants this team to get to, there's just not enough time between now and that first test. And I would have said that, and I did say it 3 months ago, for him to try out everything he wants to do and to kind of coach up everything he wants to be coached up. So I'm not sure how Jason Ryan finds a concrete block or an anvil to anchor that All Black pack before they face the Springbok scrum.
will say one thing, because we stayed at the same hotel as the All Blacks, myself, Gav, and Mike. And having seen them in South Africa in 2024, just observing them, and Durban, I can see why they love being in Durban, because there's no one there. There's no one queuing outside the hotel to get autographs. There's no one waiting in the foyers. It's very different to Cape Town, where you've got security hired to keep people at bay, to kind of give them their privacy and their respect. So they were very laid back, very relaxed. Players were coming and going in the foyers, making their way down to Virgin Active and Gateway and then back up again. But they do look a lot more at ease, a lot more happier than the 2024 team that came and lost back-to-back test matches in Johannesburg and in Cape Town. There is something brewing there. I don't know if it's going to be good enough for this test series. And as Rennie, you said in the show earlier in the week, as Rennie said, Rennie's had 2 months. Russie's had 8 years with the box. But there is something just... they've got a lot more gravitas, and you look and you think this is the All Blacks on tour, as to the side that came in 2024, and it may be because they've got an adult in charge. And we saw that. I mean, we saw when Nanu came on with those bunch of Sharks kids, there was an adult on the field, and it was quite obvious, just the calm and the presence that he brought, even though it was only the last 20 minutes, the go-to, how they looked to him to kind of feed off him. And you just get that sense with that All Black leadership in terms of Dave Rennie and Neil Barnes particularly, and Tana Umanga. And again, you see the respect between Rico Ione when he came on the field for photos with Ma Nanu, the respect between Nanu and Tana Umanga. It was 1:45 in the morning. We had come back from the ground. They were in the foyer having a chat. He had obviously gone and spent some time with him. But even just the doing of the haka, the way the Sharks put no pressure on him to do it at all. They said it would be his choice, but it would be great. They'd seen it done before. He got hold of Tana. He got hold of Tamatai Ellison. Spoke to them about how the team would receive it, what are the protocols. And I think it was just the most incredible moment. It's going to be one of the tour highlights, is the way he stepped out all calmly and then accepted the challenge and laid back the challenge on behalf of a very youthful Sharks team. And the respect that there was, and to be in South Africa and to hear the haka respected, and a Durban crowd not knowing whether to cheer or be awed in silence, because they were so happy that he was doing it, but they wanted to hear it. I think it was fabulous, and it really made for a spectacle on a cold evening, and kind of just added a little something again to the build-up to this rugby's greatest rival, which is the 4 test. It's not the build-up games. No. And we can, Gregor Paul wrote a wonderful piece in the New Zealand Herald. We can try and romanticize it. We can try and bring out the romance of Province won 12-11 in 76. The Bulls won 29-27. Those were Springbok-laden teams who were playing to play in the test team. Those days are long gone. They'll never be there again. If you take 45 Springboks out of these games, you're going to get 54-0 results. So that aside, it needed something rather magical tonight, and Ma Nanu provided it. Just like Siabelis and Atlas try 14-all on 65 minutes, provided that in Cape Town. So we're all set for a big one now at Loftus. Guys are going to, empty the tank for an hour. You look at that Bulls side, do they have enough in them again? I don't think so, to go beyond 60 minutes. And then the real deal starts. Ellis Park, 22nd of August, and then it's all systems go.
Exactly. No, well, exactly, mate. Exactly.
I put you to sleep there.
The Nanu thing was fantastic. I felt a little bit like an imposter. It seemed to me something that should have probably happened on New Zealand soil, because it was just such a Kiwi thing. It's something that they would appreciate so much more than us. It's one of their legends playing their national team. But I think it was fantastic for rugby, and that's the second game in a row now where this RGR series has added something that should always have been there in South African rugby. It was the light show in Cape Town. The sort of pre-match exhibition was fantastic, and now in Durban we've got Ma doing the huck. I can't wait to see what happens in Pretoria when they play the Bulls. That Bulls team is stacked with guys that can play. I'm excited to see Kerwin and Ambrose Papier go at 9 and 10. I think that's an interesting combination with some tactical strengths and some tactical weaknesses. And I'm quite keen to see how the All Blacks deal with that. I think the kicking game is going to come into play again on the high fault. And I think you're going to see some counter-attacking as well. So that's another element to watch in this one. And then, like you say, mate, then everything's been taken care of. All the pre-business has been done, and we get ready for the real deal. Crack your knuckles, because the first test is on the horizon.
So, I landed in Cape Town yesterday, and someone stopped me and said, "What did you think of Durban?" And I said it was a non event. And they said, "Really? What?"
No, Nonu.
It took a while for them to actually get it. So I thought, when you think you've got a good one and it doesn't land, you've got to explain it. That sounds even worse. But yeah, I was very happy to be there, because, as we say, when you watch it on TV, you don't see the same games when you're at the ground, because you see so much off the ball. And the skill level, again, of the All Blacks is very different to what we experience in this country. You just don't see the handling errors that you see from us.
Totally.
From them. It will come in the test match because of pressure.
Correct.
And that's when they'll make the mistakes, and they'll look a bit frazzled because of the line speed of the box, because of the intensity that they bring. But if we just talk general skill, the pickups off the ground, the scoops off the one-handed, the way they actually make the very difficult seem quite easy. And when you look at our players, they tend to at times make the easy look quite complicated, just from those individual skills. And every time the Sharks the All Blacks got the ball, you really felt, here comes another 7 points, because there was no line speed and intensity from the Sharks. And maybe there was a plan, lull them into a false sense of security. They've now heard about South Africa's line speed and the intensity, and it's creating a false sense of the hardships that there once was, but also that it's not that hard anymore. Because Durban had 14,000 people there. It was 10 degrees. There was snow somewhere on some mountains. And there were no brides there, obviously, because there was no one on the B field. So it wasn't the Durban occasion that some of these kids would have grown up hearing about, playing at Kings Park, going to Durban, etc. But they will get that at Ellis Park. It's going to be chock-a block. And I do think they'll get a tougher game against the Bulls at Loftus. We say 76, the Bulls won 29-27. Akers has put out a half-decent team. A lot of youngsters there, but a bit of experience. But I think it's a pack that can also just stay with the All Blacks for at least an hour, and enough in that back division. That's the core of the back division that will play in URC and Investec Champions Cup next season. So it's not that he's put out an academy team there or a Currie Cup team.
No, absolutely. I think Jean-Ray Rudolph's going to have a cracking game. I think he's going to be a problem for the All Blacks. He's a feisty bloke in the Artie Severe kind of mold, can do everything, chassis. And it is a powerful team. You've got Hanro Liebenberg, you've got Marcel Coetzee, Jean-Ray Rudolph in the back row there. Those are three guys that can go. And then some exciting backs. You've got Willie Leroux at the back. I'm excited to see how this one pans out. I think it is going to be a cracker. I do expect the All Blacks to win it, but I'm quite keen to see how they go about winning this one.
Some players choose a side. They've always said a back can never be a forward. But with Steko, Ryobi didn't just reinvent the rules. It changed the entire game. Hybrid tools for a hybrid craftsman. Steko, shaping the future. 40 years of Ryobi credibility.
And the All Blacks love playing at Loftus. I mean, the Test side loves playing there. I think they've lost once in their history. 52-16, I happened to be part of the Bok management that day when they introduced a new Nokia phone to us. They were just magnificent in 2003 in hammering us there. And they've had some big wins. I think 45-26 when Jake was coaching. They had the incredible 32-30 win, 30-13 down. Ricey's first year in Jock Nienaber, 2018. We win 36-34 in Wellington. Bowden Barrett hits the post. Otherwise, it's 36 all. And the test is, let's see how we can put them away in South Africa. Jesse Krill, I think Damien Delandy had great games. We're 30-13 up. They come back, they score. They score in the last minute, Artie Severe. And Richie Mahanga steps up and nails a magnificent touchline conversion. 32-30. And talking to Richie Mahanga.
There you go.
The worst kept secret in New Zealand rugby. It was, get 2 games out the way in New Zealand and we'll put you on a plane.
Yep.
And he's on the plane.
Yeah, he is on the plane, man.
And the right decision.
I agree.
Best 10 in New Zealand, you want to see him here.
Definitely. And changes the way they can play with consistency, I think. Ruben Love's been great. I think he's done a great job, and opportunities he's been given by Rennie, and I think he's definitely a star of the future. But he is very much and all action on the gain line, explosive guy to unleash your attack. I think Richie Moanga is a guy that can probably beat you in more than just one way, and obviously massive experience there. So I'm quite keen to see how he's integrated back into the mix. When do they play him? How do they play him? Is he in the first test, match 23? And if so, does he start or is he off the bench? How does that look? So yeah, it's great for the series.
I'd be surprised if he's in that first test match. I would see him playing 2 and 3. Ruben Love, again, one thing that impressed me was the distance he was getting on his kicks in Durban, sea level. He's banding some long ones down the touch. He's got a great attitude on the field. He led the haka. The one thing that's all the All Black leadership and the players are saying is that he takes control of a game as a 10 and he's a driver, which is remarkable when you think he was in Scott Robinson's setup for 2 years and got one game at fullback, I think one for 10 minutes on the win, was not considered to be a 10. He missed one conversion. Most of them were from the touchline in horrendous conditions. And how did he miss that? How did Robinson miss having that guy in the mix? And not give him some of those playing opportunities, and especially against, if you call them, lesser teams. So I'm fascinated to see how he goes at Ellis Park. He's a good player, and he's got a great attitude. But Richie Moanga, consistently up there, 1-2 in the world. New Zealand will be better off for it. And I do think somehow New Zealand may potentially be stumbling onto their best team, not necessarily by design, sometimes by default.
No, totally. I think Richie Moanga, Artie Surveyor makes a huge difference to that match day 23 if those guys do come back into the mix. I think Quinn Tapai has done a great job at 13 for them, and he's looking like the real deal. Definitely solves a big headache there with Billy having to go home. And then the emergence of the young outside backs, the Moorby and the Finney Unger Nafoa. They've got guys there that are coming through, youngsters, relatively, well, not youngsters, but new to the scene, who are swimming. They're doing a great job. So I think Rennie's probably got more options than he may have thought he would have when he first started, and that's great for New Zealand rugby.
Well, you talk about the Hurricanes flyer. So Moorby got 17, Fahey got 17. It's a new Super Rugby Pacific record tries in a season. So when two winners get 34 tries, you've dominated the season. I think the replacement winners got 6 or 7 as well. So he was 22 months old when Ma'a Nonu made his test debut against England in 2003.
Insane.
He was 22 months old. So he was a 23-year-old up against a 44-year-old at the start of when he came on, he went to the left wing. It's just remarkable, I think, to showcase what Ma'a Nonu has done in his career.
No, totally.
He won a World Cup final in 2015, called it quits, and he's still going in 2026. I mean, you can't overemphasize or overstate just what an incredible career he has had. And I think the Sharks youngsters are definitely going to benefit from having him around over the next 2 months. He's very hands-on. I think a guy like Lorenzo Julius will get massive value out of just training with him, working alongside with him, and kind of getting to understand if this guy can do it at 44, how did he get to 44? What does it take in terms of professionalism? There's a lot of controversy around why did you bring Ma'a Nonu in? I think it's a fabulous thing to have done, to have brought him in. And for what they want to get out of him, they didn't bring him in to play in the URC or to win them tournaments. It's to work with the players' minds. And those players will see the benefits of that a year, 2, 3 years down the line. So, yeah, I was grateful to be in Durban to kind of experience that, and also just to see, to also get the understanding from the Sharks leadership as to the whys, especially JP. Like, this is why we brought him in here. Imagine those players going on a leadership course for 3 months and working with him. That's effectively what they've done.
Totally. I hope that's the part they really lean into with Ma'a, specifically the coaching and the management team, is driving standards. So when you guys were so successful at the All Blacks and with the Hurricanes and everywhere else he's played, what were the standards that you guys set, and how did you maintain them, and how did you build a culture around that? I think if the Sharks can start to fix that, they've got great talent in that region and in that club. I think if the standards are there, you'll see them improve rapidly.
Well, I think Rory Duncan's appointment on the rugby side of things as well, basically as a massive support structure to JP Peterson, and the kind of elements they're putting around him from a rugby side is a positive. Their recruitment, there's a whole new recruitment drive as well. And if you look at the KZN school system at the moment, the last 18 months, probably the strongest I've seen the KZN schools in all the festivals when we go across province, how they've played. And then also, if you look at the Craven Week, province normally dominate. This most recent Craven Week, it took a last-minute penalty for province to beat the KZN Sharks Craven Week side.
Yep.
So take those youngsters and then a sprinkling of the seasoned veterans that are coming in. And I had a chat to Marco Mazzotti. Hadn't met him before. We've sparred a lot on social media, lightheartedly. He speaks very highly of you, Zels. He enjoys you.
Impossible.
He knows you're a Durban boy. He's a Tody boy. Him and Mike Remo at school together, actually. They opened the batting
No ways.
for Toty's first team. I didn't know Mike was such a good cricketer.
I had no idea, mate.
So I also had an informal but a lovely chat to him about the aspirations of the Sharks Rugby Club and the reasoning why they want to be known as a club. So it's not an amateur union, it's not a franchise, it is a club. Sharky's not gone, Sharky will be around, the emblem will be seen. It's just trying to take that Americanized professionalism and put it into a structure. So what is the marketing? What is the commercial value? And then obviously what is happening on the playing side of things. They have invested in JP Peterson. Also had a very lacquer chat with him, understanding his thinking. Marco did say to me the one thing, he's like, I love the word Galacticos, and you said we bought them all, and he said it was never planned to come in like that. It just worked out like that. So they're certainly not going to be going out and buying 10 100-plus Test Springboks. They have looked at where they feel they've gone wrong. They've done a lot of analysis of their last 2 seasons. And I think, if a club's got hope, and we saw that with the Stormers, when Dobbo took over and all those Springboks left, and it was like, what are they going to do now? And they ended up winning the URC in the first season with a lot of kids. And those kids all went on to play for the Boks. So, I think for any Sharks supporter, it's not going to be easy, but there's a lot of good things going on there. And what it does need is those youngsters to come through, but it also needs their Test Springboks when they're available to really earn their keep and play well for them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what the Sharks need. I mean, they have, by design or not, they have had a Galacticos team. They just haven't produced Galacticos performances out of those guys. So definitely they've got all the names, but they have to pull it together. And I think that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier about standards, is you kind of need to have somebody be responsible for the direction of the rugby there and for everybody to kind of get in alignment with that vision. I think when you kind of try and go in multiple directions at the same time, you just end up staying where you are. So they definitely have the talent there. I'm a huge fan of JP. I think he can go far in coaching. Obviously one of my favorite players. And they've got some great talent there. They've got talent in youth and they've got talent in veterans. There's no reason why the Sharks can't pull it back together and be contenders again.
If you look at the All Blacks again, we're just going to go back to them now. What would they have taken from these opening 2 games in terms of victories outside of the results leading into the Test match?
I'm not 100% sure what their thinking is in their camp, mate. For me, the guys that stood out, a guy like Kyle Preston, I think, is a bit of a sleeper in this series. I think he's a damn good scrum half. He's got a bit of Hershey to him in the sense that he just ends up in the right place at the right time, a bit of a game breaker, super silver laser pass. I think he's a really good player. And, I mean, Cam Roygaard is their starter, but we've spoken about the depth that you may need in a series like this. The question marks around this team are primarily up front, specifically in the tight 5, specifically in the scrum. That's something that has to be repaired because it has a trickle-down effect on all the other facets of the game. I think Rennie's going to stick with what he knows. I think it's going to be Geordie Barrett at 12, Quinn at 13, and probably Will Jordan sliding into fullback if DMAC doesn't make it in terms of a fitness test. And they'll be electric and they'll be dangerous out wide. But the key is, can the tight forwards anchor down and hold the line so that the loose trio can get going forward and then unleash the backs to do their thing? And I think that is central to everything. Their ability to find a way to solve the scrum issues is key.
Yeah, so if you're talking about Damian McKenzie had another very good game. We got back to the hotel at 1:45 in the morning. There was 5 All Black supporters getting up, basically last drinks on their way out. And the one gentleman said to me, enjoy the game. I said, yeah, I thought we were great. We got 0, you got 54. I'm sure you enjoyed it a bit more. And he said, Damian McKenzie's mom's here. And she came over and I said, Mrs. McKenzie, mother of Marty. Marty McKenzie's the other brother.
Yeah.
And they are Southland boys. And I think she was quite chuffed that someone in South Africa actually knew that there was another McKenzie and a very good rugby player.
Yep.
They started off together. He's now coaching. They both boys have had children, so she's a granny, and they're here for the long haul. They didn't get to Cape Town, but from Durban onwards, they're here for the 3 test matches, and just loving being in South Africa. And again, such praise for the Springboks, and so excited to see where the All Blacks are positioned a year out from the World Cup. And I think that's the big thing is, this is an incredible series, but the bigger picture in the modern world that we live in of rugby is the World Cup. And for both sides, wow, to experience this kind of intensity a year out from a World Cup, you know exactly who's who in that zoo.
No, absolutely. And so Rennie's job is to get the All Blacks back up to the level in time for that World Cup. And this series is a great sort of accelerator for that. Great opportunity to come to the Republic. It's like a great camp for the All Blacks. They get to come and try it in the most difficult place in the world to win. Different conditions, different sort of external factors with the crowd in Cape Town versus the crowd in Durbs versus the crowd in Pretoria and Joburg. The Highveld factor, the physicality of South African teams. Everything they need to accelerate back to where they were is sitting right here in the Republic, and they've just got to take advantage of that. Unfortunately for them, they are coming up against the world's best team, the best Springbok team in Springbok rugby history, and a team that has got massive, massive depth that is not going to be derailed by 1 or 2 injuries. So they've got their work cut out for them, but I think that New Zealand will leave these shores in a much better condition in terms of their readiness for the next World Cup than when they arrived.
All right, so if you're thinking hybrid players, we think Andre Esterades, and he's got a bit of a concussion, but we think Steko Raihobi, our wonderful, wonderful supporters of the show. Go onto our socials, go onto our WhatsApp channels, our Facebook pages. There are great prizes to be won as the international season unfolds. Drills to the value of $6.99. You'll see where the competitions are. Enter them and you can be the winner. There's also vouchers to be won from another wonderful sponsor alignment, Food Lovers. Go onto the socials again over the next few days. And also think about game day snacks, because that's where you get your Bolton from. We're going to get to that now. But a scoreline. Bulls up against the All Blacks. 1976, it was 29-27 to the Bulls. I don't believe it's going to be that again. Tell me what your score is and tell me why.
47-19 to the All Blacks. They win it comfortably. It does take them 50 minutes to get going. The Bulls do win a few of these collisions and make the All Blacks think twice. The Highveld factor comes into play, but the All Blacks counter-attack, transition attack is just too much. And the Bulls come out of this one with a 47-19 loss.
I have a 41-26. And before you even spoke, and it's not to the Bulls, I'm afraid to say. Sorry, Arkers. 41-26, and I actually thought late try, so it was 41-19, but 41-26, the 15-point comfortable. I think it's going to be a cool game, though. Dry conditions, Clint van der Berg told us. I think a decent crowd in. So,
I mean, that'd be huge, mate. If the Bulls will feel like that's a great result for them.
Yeah, I just want a good game, a bit like Cape Town. You actually want a contest. You want a bit of free-flowing rugby, and then we get into the big one at Ellis Park, 22nd of August. Zels and I will be there. Obviously, Zels will be stacked with a lot of biltong, because here it is. Food Lovers Market is South Africa's home of biltong. And the best value biltong in town, $349.99 a kilogram. Zels and I get it on the house. Real biltong, real value. That's what makes Food Lovers Market the home of biltong and lekker braai.